So this afternoon, Mark Baston.
See.
There you go. Chief Marketing Officer, Yonder. What's Yonder?
Yonder. Yonder is so much. Yonder is Yonder Luxury Vacation Rentals. We manage 230 plus homes in Western North Carolina. We have another collection of homes, about 30 homes in Arizona now, which we're very excited about. Got 36 amazing teammates. We're part of this community. We believe that hospitality, which essentially is what the industry we're in, is really about human connection, is about relationships. It's not about transactions. It's not a commodity. And it's certainly not heads in beds like a lot of hospitality, hotels and maybe even some other property man. I'm not going to mention any names, but it's one guest at a time.
That's pretty great. So I met Mark because of a problem, and it had nothing to do with Yonder. It was a call to Neil Drendel. So Neil's Chief Business Development Officer here for Yonder, and Neil was very instrumental in us onboarding. Really cool dude. And
the long-haired Neil.
Yeah, he
doesn't have that hair anymore.
Yeah. And we were remember, it was Kelly's Island. We were dealing with an issue with our vacation rental on Kelly's Island in Ohio with
where
Airbnb.
Yonder does not exist yet. So forced almost to self-manage that property, and we are having Airbnb issues.
So Neil said, I don't know, but I know who does. And that conversation turned into a conversation with Mark, who said, when are you going to be in town? And I said, next week. And
human connection. Mark actually came to our home, and we were kind of like, what are all this, like the Yonder people are coming to, we felt special. He showed up at our door.
You are.
And I really thought initially, though, let me disclose this. I don't know if you knew this. I've told this to Neil. I said, I would think we'd really like to work with Yonder after some interviews, and we'd like them to manage our home, but I don't know if we're luxury enough for them.
Right.
Like, we have a beautiful view, but I was really concerned that you might not accept our property.
Right.
Yeah. So I felt really special when you came to the door, even though I was deathly ill that day, and you got to go to lunch with Brandon, and you guys hit it off.
Yeah. I mean, selfishly, I like getting out of the office. In the early days of Yonder, Steve and I used to go, we were on the road all the time talking to owners, trying to get new homes in the portfolio. And I loved it. I loved hanging out with Steve in the car. We had a great time. We became almost brothers. We sort of are still. So for me to be able to get out of the office, meet an owner that I hadn't met previously, and hopefully help, solve a problem, to me it was great, and I knew that there was talk of going to lunch perhaps, so I didn't bring any lunch, so I was probably hungry as well. But I was also sort of disappointed because you were not feeling well.
I was not. I didn't get to go along to that one.
Yeah.
But it's amazing to me how one thing led to another, and we have this partnership with Yonder. We have this amazing relationship with a lot of the executive team now, and we really feel engrossed as part of the Yonder family. And it all came because
of a problem.
And one step back, the great retrace, we decided to bring our little tab camper to Asheville one time years ago. And then that led to buying a house, and then this led to all of these things. And now we have Quinvestors and a partnership, and we're growing and we're expanding together with Yonder and Quinvestors in Arizona and other markets. It's fascinating to me.
Sounds like that first step to come to Arizona in a little teardrop.
Yeah.
Was a bit of a gutsy move.
Might have been.
We're in Asheville now, and we're shooting gutsy moves.
Yeah.
So your beginnings were not Asheville, though. And
No.
It was definitely not Yonder.
No.
And I mean, you made it from, we just mentioned Phoenix. You did make it from Arizona State, right?
Yeah.
And you made it all the way down to the U.S. Virgin Islands, St. Thomas. Those are
Yes.
some throwback days.
Yeah, with a pit stop in Europe for 6 years. And then I went to the Virgin Islands. My sister was down there, and I went to visit her while I was still living in London, and loved it. I remember on a Pan Am flight. It kind of dates me. Flying in on Pan Am. It was during the day, and we flew, into the airport in St. Thomas, which is scary as all get up. But seeing the water rimming the white beaches on the islands, and I fell in love at probably, I don't know, 6,000 feet elevation, and ended up buying some property there, and then moving there in 92. Gosh, it just a great experience. Spent 13 years there, met Monica, my wife, there. Our son Ryan was born there. Had some great friends, really good experiences. Used to visit a lot of the neighboring islands, the BVI, plus the U.S. Virgin Islands, St. John and St. Croix was there quite a bit, and just a real formative years professionally. Got involved in a radio station just because I won some Haagen-Dazs. Because I knew.
Tell that story.
Well, I was actually working in a cabinet making, working with wood and making cabinets, which I didn't really know much about. I knew my way around the tools, because my dad was really good with it, but I was not trained in that. I just kind of learned along the way while I was living first moved to St. Thomas. And listened to a great radio station, WIVI, the Endless Mix on 96. And every Friday they would do a contest, guess the first 5 songs of a band, and win 5 pints of Haagen-Dazs. And who's not a fan of Haagen-Dazs?
Your sister.
So, pardon?
Your sister.
My sister. And so one Friday they played The Clash. They played 5 songs. I guessed them all. I called in first. I won. I go down and pick up the Haagen-Dazs, and I was living in a small studio apartment with a small refrigerator freezer, and I couldn't put all 5 pints in there. So I called up the station manager and I said, I can only take maybe 3. Can I give you 2? Because you guys are great. You can give it to the staff. He goes, that'd be great. So I go up to Crown Mountain. First time up at this radio station. I was sort of curious what the radio station was like, because I've been listening to them for a while now. And I get up there, give him the ice cream, and he said, I really like your voice. Would you like to be a volunteer? It was all volunteer DJs. I think there was like 24, 25 volunteer DJs. And I was like, yeah, it'd be great, So, because I had a lot of music, a lot of CDs. And a lot of CDs.
Oh, man.
And
He didn't say vinyl.
there was some vinyl up there, but I had a ton of CDs. So I was your buddy Mark on Thursday evenings at 7:30 for 2 hours. And then right after that was the Grateful Dead show, Doc Carlin. And so 6-8 months later, I had gotten to know the owner of the station, and he knew of my background in marketing and took a liking to me. And Billy couldn't be the manager of the station anymore. So the owner of the station, Gordon Ackley, came up to me and he said, hey, do you want to run the station? And I had no business running a radio station. I had no experience except for that 6 or 7 months of being on the radio every Thursday at 7:30. And but I said, yes, I would love to. And I think, in the Virgin Islands is interesting. There's a saying, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. And it's I don't know if it's necessarily true down there, because there are some very talented people there, but there's also some opportunities. And so anyways, I raised my hand. I said, yes, I'll do it. And for 3 years, I ran that radio station. And then by that, I actually met some people in the distribution business. They needed a marketing director. I switched jobs, took that job. So I was a marketing director for this distribution company, West Indies Corporation. They had, I called them the sin products, the alcohol, the cigarettes, the cigars. They also had a consumable division, everything from dog food to hair relaxers, which I knew nothing about. And for those who are just listening, I'm bald. So
Really relaxed hair.
it was very relaxed hair. It was singular hair. So that was a great experience. And then in that position, I got to know another group of radio stations that needed a general manager, general sales manager. And they came to me at one point and they said, we need someone to run our stations. And so it was a great opportunity. The owner was really well respected in the community. He started cable TV down there. And so he was sort of an innovator. I learned a lot from him in terms of management and just business, how to do business, how to talk to people from a business perspective, because he was at a different level than I'd ever really been involved with. Ran those radio stations for 7 years and had our son, Ryan, who was born in 1999. And Monica and I started talking, do we want to stay here, raise our son, which we knew a lot of parents that were, brought their children up and it was a great place, or do we want to move to the States? And we decided, let's go to the States, give Ryan, I think, a broader scope of experiences. Checked out Boulder, checked out Sedona, Arizona, and checked out Asheville. Fell in love with Asheville. And it was so close to family and friends up and down the East Coast, it just made a lot of sense to us. And we came to Asheville, I think, in 2000, when it was very sleepy compared to what it is now. It was 4th of July weekend. Parking was ample, tons of parking, not a lot of people on the streets, but there was still a vibe that Monica and I both felt immediately. And after 4 days of being here, we sort of knew that this was going to be our next step. And so in 2005, we bought a place, not really having a job, knowing that we would just make it happen. Monica's she's super industrious, perhaps a gutsy move.
That's definitely a
perhaps
gutsy move.
Buy a
Move,
house and no
relocate.
job.
Yeah. Buy a house and then have no job.
Not really have a job.
How'd you get the financing for that?
Well, it's 2005.
Bingo. Well, the other thing is that we had 2 condos in the Virgin Islands. So we were renting one to Nursing Association for traveling nurses. And we had a 2-bedroom condo overlooking the ocean.
20 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Same thing that people are doing today.
Right.
You just do it at a high level.
Right. So we sold both of those, and we had enough equity in them so that when we sold them, we did pretty good. And when I told Randy Knight, my boss, the owner of the radio stations, and he always used to say to me, listen, you leave the islands, I'm hunting you down. I mean, he was kidding, and he always said, he would put a bracelet on my ankle so that he would know if I ever left. So I sat down with him on lunch. It was this, talk about a gutsy move, sitting down with him on lunch and telling him that we were gonna move. He was so gracious. He was so nice. He said, I'm going to sell the stations. I'm going to get X amount of dollars because the stations has grown so much, blah, blah, blah. And because I don't want to go through getting another GM or GSM again.
Sure.
And almost brought me to tears because he was so gracious and so nice. And I mean, to this day, we still stay in touch. I mean, he's a really good dude. Yeah, so we had some cash after selling the 2 condos, after he sold the radio station.
Do you still own that property that you bought first here in Asheville?
Yeah, and in fact, we turned it into a vacation rental. When Ryan went to
Shocker.
college, well, because I'd been working with Yonder, so I sort of knew the benefit. And so it was, at the time, it was a 3-bedroom, 2.5. And I said to Monica, Ryan's at school. It was still too big of a house for us, and it was on some acreage. And so we decided, with my understanding of vacation rentals and working with Yonder, I said to Monica, we might have had a glass or 2 of wine. And I said, let's turn this into a vacation rental. let's put it into the, property management with Yonder, because I knew they did a great job. I've been working with Steve on the brand since the beginning. So I knew so much intimately. Yonder was sort of a baby for me. And she was a little hesitant. And I said, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a home equity loan, and we're going to take it from a 3-bedroom, 2.5, to a 5-bedroom, 5.5. We're going to put on a monster deck. We're going to include a hot tub. We're going to do all this stuff. And Monica she just didn't necessarily see the benefit. She just saw it as
She didn't drink the Steve sauce.
no.
Expense.
No, she barely
Big
drank my
expense.
sauce. I mean, I was passionate about it. I mean, I get goosebumps thinking about it, because I knew it was a risk. But, I felt like I knew the benefit being, I saw the checks being written to owners.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this could be good. And while Ryan's at school, let's, rent a place, smaller place, have a smaller, cash output on a monthly basis in terms of, and I felt confident that the mortgage at the house, now Blackberry Lodge, it's on our website, it's 5-bedroom, that the mortgage could be covered, all the expenses could be covered by the rental income, and that worked out to be true. And interestingly enough, we rented a small little cabin, about 110 years old, 700 square feet. We were going from about a 4,000 square foot home to a 700 square foot home with a lot of stuff, which forced us to get rid of a lot of stuff. And I will say this, getting rid of stuff is so cathartic.
Yes,
it's really a good feeling. But it also we learned a lot of valuable lessons of downsizing, living in a minimalistic type thing. We had a big dog at the time, a Rhodesian Ridgeback called Coda, rest in peace. And we got to know our landlord so well. She also had a 3-bedroom about 50 feet away from us that she used to long term. And we were living in that small place for 3 years, renting it. But we got to know her so well. We had such a good relationship with her that at one point, over some wine, I said, listen, if you ever want to sell that, let me know. Don't put it on an MLS. Just let me know, and we can talk. And so she came to us probably about 6 months later, and she goes, I want to sell both. Wow. And I go, so you think we can do both? And she goes, well, let me do owner finance to you guys on the 3-bedroom, and I want to sell the other one normally. And I said, all right, you sure? Because we'd be really interested in getting both. And she goes, no, that's kind of what I want to do. And so I said, all right. About 2.5 weeks later, she calls me up. She goes, I'll do both. Owner finance.
Wow.
For 5 years at a really good interest rate. And so all of a sudden we went from owning one piece of property in Fairview, which was paying for itself because it was doing well, and it has done well in the short-term rental market, to now having 3 properties. The small cabin after Ryan graduated college, he's now renting that from us, which is a very interesting dynamic, having your child rent something from you and now pay you rent.
A distinctive approach to passive income with luxury vacation rentals.
For more information, check out our website, quinvestors.com. Mark Baston brought some books.
I did.
Tell us about your
did.
books.
They're my props. I've got 3 favorite books, and one of them I didn't bring. And the one I didn't bring is, and I love talking about Seth Godin, and his book, the first book I ever read of his was Purple Cow. Phenomenal.
Yeah, it's
highly, highly recommend it. Easy read, which is good for me. The other books, this one, it's by Kevin Roberts, who was the CEO of Saatchi & Saatchi.
What is Saatchi & Saatchi?
Saatchi & Saatchi it's an international advertising agency.
Okay.
Really well known. Offices all over the world. big brands. And I so dig this book. And one of the reasons is because he signed it for me, which makes it really important for me.
And your name's on it.
And Love Marks. Yes. Essentially, this book, Love Marks, is about transforming beyond the traditional marketing to a more emotional attachments, or just what really resonates with the consumer. And it creates super loyal consumers that love your brand, i.e. Love Marks, leaving Love Marks. And it's taught me so much about emotional intelligence, which I think is sort of a superpower for anyone in the business world, especially leaders, to be able to have some. I think technical intelligence is, you need it for sure, but having emotional intelligence at the same level you have technical intelligence or beyond, I think
That's not easy to do.
it's not easy to do, and it's a constant learning procedure. I'm still learning, and I still practice how I can be a better listener, how I can have better self-regulation, self-awareness, motivation. I think is super important. But I think one of the key things is empathy, and they talk a lot about this in this book, Love Marks, and just really understanding, having a deep understanding of your consumer. For us, our guests, as well as our owners, we've got three main groups that we think about. I think about our guests, our owners, and our team.
Almost in that order. Good job.
Well,
how it
your owners. I would actually, in all seriousness, our team has to be number one.
Yeah.
Just because the work they do, I think, is really a differentiator for Yonder. I mean, I've said we can have a great website, a great collection of homes, great locations, great pricing, great marketing, etc. But if we do not have really good people behind our brand, it's not going to last long.
Yonder does put people first. You do it at the team level. I mean, you do it at all levels, but you really do put people first. It's a testament to how the team functions and the brand is recognized, really.
Well, thanks. But I also think it's a constant challenge. You're always working on it. You're never being complacent, because I think as soon as you start getting complacent, you start going backwards.
That's right.
So yeah, the empathy part, I think, is critical for us. Listening, and it really helps develop trust, which then increases the level of relationships that we have with the folks that we're dealing with. I didn't say community, because I would add the group community into that. The guests, the owners, our team, and the community, because we're part of the community. We work here, we play here, eat here, we do everything here. I mean, this community is super important for us, especially after seeing what happened after Helene. So
Whipsawed through here.
yeah,
Helene messed this place up.
I don't think that a lot of people recognize in the vacation rental space what a bigger deal that whole conglomerate of people that you're talking about is. There's booking managers out there, and then there's houses. We think vacation rentals, I go to the beach, I just rent a house, like, bada bing, bada boom, rent a house. There's all of those moving pieces behind the scenes, and just to do it at that level is, it's fascinating to watch. I've learned so much about your business.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of spinning plates behind the scenes. I think it's almost the analogy that I've used a while back is that beautiful swan that you see in the pond, that's elegant, that is just gorgeous, but underneath the water, that swan is going crazy with his or her flippers, feet. Swan flippers. They're moving fast that you can't even see them. So there's this that's, I think, something that I think a lot of businesses do that. I think, we all want it to make it look seamless and easy, but there's a lot of stuff going on in the background. A lot of, oh my gosh.
Well, it's hospitality.
Yeah.
And it
That's
is.
your,
And people that do things at a high level make it look easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you get a
guest
lot of those like, I want to do what you do. I'll get my real estate license. I want to get into management. Like,
Right.
because you make it look so easy.
Yeah.
It's not. There's a lot of parts. So you have a guest experience team. You have property service, property managers.
Yep.
You have booking people.
Well, I mean, there's about 36, 37 people, I believe, right now that work for Yonder, and they're amazing. But we've all got to work in sync. And I think since COVID, because not a lot of people come to the office, they're all working in silos, and I think that offers another challenge for a lot of businesses, not just ours. Is how do we communicate? Emails. The E in email stands for evil, because we all use it, and texting and phone calls.
the degradation of communication.
Yeah, it's really hard, and you have to be patient. You have to listen to our teammates. If a guest calls, and usually a guest isn't going to call me, but they're going to call our guest experience team, and they're going to have issues. It's just part of the business. A blender isn't there, or a blender is broken, and they've got a whole group that they really want to make some daiquiris. And so they call and they're like, we're a little upset. The blender's broken. So we want to get there really fast, not fix a blender, but actually take them a brand new one, sometimes two. We'll get duplicates because they're not that expensive. But if we bring guests 2 blenders,
Well, now they can make you a daiquiri.
I might say yes. But it also is an opportunity to sit down while you're handing these blenders off and get to know them a little bit. Ask them some questions. Do you want to know where to go have some coffee? Or I can tell you about a good brewery up the road. Because being local gives us a huge advantage, is that we know our area, and so we can help people out who haven't been here before. And that develops the relationship, and that develops trust. And if you can develop that emotional relationship, that's where you can create love marks and create real loyalty. And we've got a lot of folks coming back over and over again because they trust Yonder. They know that they're going to get good, high quality homes with a lot of amenities. But if something goes wrong, or if they need a recommendation, we can give it to them.
Because the experience renting from a homeowner is not the same as an experience of renting a property through Yonder.
Correct.
The management style is different. The care and the people that you have in place just don't even compare to one person maybe renting 1 or 3 homes on their own.
Right.
It's not even the same thing. And I've heard those horror stories. People couldn't check in. It was late at night. They can't get a hold of anybody. My own cousin, it happened to. Showed up late one night, got stuck on the travel over road closures or whatnot, and got there after the check-in hours. Something wouldn't load on the phone with the code.
Yeah.
And the owner was in bed.
Right.
They had to go to a hotel.
Yeah.
And so
No,
those just speaks to all of the things that go into the involvement of what y'all do.
But it's super gratifying. I mean, I think to see the growth of Yonder since the beginning, the folks that we have in place on our team, the amount of 5-star reviews. I think we're just over 13,000 on Google, not on Google, but all of our platforms. We're over about 13,000.
Not just reviews, but 5-star reviews.
5-star reviews. Yeah. And that's something we're really proud about, because it's a reflection of, again, the brand is huge, but it's the people behind the brand. It's the people doing what, is the cleaning. And,
That's a game changer.
It's really, I mean, we take a lot of pride in that. So to see a business that started, really from a place of, I wouldn't call it desperation, but it was tough times, in 2008.
That was a financial crisis.
yeah, Steve, the owner, had a couple of really, really beautiful timber frame homes that were spec homes because he was building them with his brother Brian. And then the real estate collapse, and the banks came calling, and he had dabbled in vacation rentals with a partner in town, so he knew a little bit about it. But now he really had to get in it because the bank said, "Listen, we don't want your homes because these are big homes." They didn't want to be brokers, and so a mutual friend of ours introduced me. I was introduced to Steve. I remember exactly, right in town, right in front of a bank, ironically. And a couple days later, I had a meeting with Steve because I had a small branding agency, and he needed a brand. He needed a logo and a name, and it kind of went from there. But I hung out with Steve a lot, learning about his vision and kind of his situation, and just getting to know Steve because he's such a dynamic and interesting man, person, that it was, I loved getting to know him. It was like getting to know, all clients. There's always a story, a great story. And yeah, it kind of went from there. But so to see it grow and prosper, and to see the people come in and love it, and, now we can offer health insurance, 401k, and to be able to do that for folks who didn't have that offered to them before, in previous jobs, it's really rewarding. It's really rewarding, and to see the feedback from guests and reviews on what kind of memories they make. And we get guests that are coming to celebrate their 60th. We get guests that are coming to get married on our properties. We get guests that are coming to celebrate a life because the grandfather just passed away, and they family reunions, multi-generational. So there's all reasons why people want to come on vacation, and to see, for us to be able to play a small role in those vacations, is really meaningful for us. Really meaningful.
So you create experiences, right? And you just gave some examples of that. And then the guest experience team has this Tracy Hartman, rooted in her experience and past life with the Ritz-Carlton family of properties. So
high standards.
Got some very big influence on how the guest experience team operates, as do you.
Is she the head of guest experience?
She, and along with Brenda, actually, Tracy is sort of moving out into more of an operational role, but Brenda is also, involved in really overseeing a lot of the guest experience team. It's phenomenal women. I mean,
now listen, if I was calling in and I was upset and I got Brenda on the phone with her Southern twang, it would just calm me down. It would calm me down, right down.
It does help.
It does help. Really helps.
They take empathy to another level. And gosh, we wouldn't be where we are today without that team. They're amazing.
So you got another book over there, man.
I do. This is a more recent book. This is a book called Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara. And the story behind Will is that a few years ago, I don't know how, but I happened upon him. He did a TED Talk. And the short story of his TED Talk, he used to run, I think, 11 Madison Avenue, a really, really well-known restaurant. I hope I'm correct.
Clearly, because you forgot the name.
Did I?
He said 11 Madison.
I think it was 11
that's
Madison. It was a really, really good restaurant. And he was running it, I think 1 or 2 Michelin stars. And he's helping the lunch staff out because they were probably understaffed and it was a busy day. And he overheard a conversation. I hope I get this right. He overheard a conversation of 2 couples who were in town. They were foodies, and they had made mention of how amazing all the food was. One of them said, "It's just a bummer because we got to get to the airport and we haven't had a hot dog yet." Because I think everyone knows about the New York hot dogs. They're on every corner and they're ubiquitous, and you can smell them from the next block over. So he goes into the kitchen and he has an epiphany. I'm going to go run down to the corner, get a hot dog, and bring it back. And this is what I'm going to serve him. So he runs down to the other end of the block, gets one hot dog, comes into the kitchen, tells his chef, who didn't want to do this, but he tells his chef, listen, I want you to dress this hot dog up a little bit, plate it, really nice, display and everything. I'm going to take it over to these guests. And again, the chef was very hesitant about doing this because this was completely not close to what they're serving at this restaurant. So he takes it to the folks, beautifully plated, and he says, folks, listen, I overheard, and I know you didn't have a hot dog, so I wanted to bring you one of these hot dogs, or at least a taste of the hot dogs. So these folks were blown away. And that was sort of the catalyst for the term unreasonable hospitality, because he learned then, you've got to look for these cues. You've got to talk to your customers, your guests, and find out and say, how can I surprise them? How can I make them wow? And all of our staff have these books. We've all read them. And if I can give them to folks, I will, because I feel like, especially in the industry, because I just feel like it's such a powerful book. And if we can raise the level of hospitality and start with these sort of principles, then our industry, the short-term rental industry, is going to be in a better place. We can compete with the Ritz-Carltons. And, it's fun because we have opportunities all the time. The guest experience team talks to guests and they find out, in a nice way, why you coming? Do you need recommendations? Blah, blah, blah. And so they come to us with, hey, we've got a group that's coming in. And for example, we yesterday have a group coming in that were bachelors and bachelorettes coming together, which is sort of unusual, I think. And they're staying in a house. They don't drink. They love to hike and they love movies. So we heard about this last week. And so as a marketing team, we were kind of hunkered down and we're like, what can we do? And that to me is exciting because it gets the creative juices flowing, because there's a lot of stuff we could do within budget. We don't mind spending money, but we don't want to go crazy. So we decided, let's get them some non-alcoholic beverages. Let's get them some movie trivia games, and let's get them some poppy popcorn that they can watch or they can eat while they're watching their movies, and or playing the movie trivia games. So they loved it. I mean, they went crazy. Going out and getting a karaoke machine for folks. There's a slew of examples that we do. Sort of, it's our Yonder hot dog, and they change all the time. So, but it's
the difference between customer service and experience.
Yeah, exactly. And we never want to be a commodity. We never want to be thinking just heads in beds. We want to be more of a limited edition. We want it to be guest. Every guest is different. And so we want to make sure that we treat every guest like that differently. It cannot be this generic, just bring them in and get them out. Bring them in, get them out.
There are those business models out there. High occupancy rates. It's an actual strategy, is it not?
Yeah, it's
low rates, high occupancy.
And when that happens, you become a commodity. A lot of wear and tear in the homes. Quality of guests sometimes will dip, and it's not as fulfilling for us. It's all about human connection. This is what it's about. It's hospitality at its truest form, is taking care of people, developing memories, helping them make the best memories so they come back, they tell other people. For us, it's a great business model.
So my memory of the first time where that impacted me direct, Kate and I, was after we were planning to go to lunch that Kate was not able to attend. She wasn't feeling well. And either later that night or the next day, we received a joint text, black and white photo of Quinn at Views and Brews. And the whole context of unreasonable hospitality and those conversations that we've had since then, over the years, just comes full circle. Just thinking back to that very first moment that we met, unreasonable hospitality was on display.
That was so easy. And first of all, Quinn's adorable.
You made it easy.
Huh?
You make it easy.
Perhaps. But Quinn is super adorable. So I'm having, obviously a meeting with Brandon and Kate, and Quinn's there at the dining room table just being adorable. And I had my camera, and it's pretty easy, I think, to take some photos without even her knowing that I was taking photos. So I took a bunch. And so then when I went back to the office, I downloaded them, and I found one that I thought was representative of Quinn's cuteness. And because she wasn't looking at the camera, if I remember correctly.
It's a pretty great photo. Yeah, we saved that one.
I think she might have been a little sick that day too.
Yeah.
But she didn't look sick in the photo. She had a little sparkle in her eye. Anyway, and then turning into black and white, because I like black and white.
But you sent it and said, thanks for meeting, or it was great pleasure meeting you, or something. That was just, a nice touch.
Again, thank you.
It's a differentiator.
A distinctive approach to passive income with luxury vacation rentals.
For more information, check out our website, quinvestors.com.
So in our Ramblin' Man conversations, we are figuring out here that back to our roots, the Quinn photo, the black and white photo, unreasonable hospitality, we were going to go to Rocky's Hot Chicken here in Asheville for a lunch that turned into a marathon.
It did.
The synergy that came from that almost seems staged. It was like you were renting space in my head.
I certainly didn't think that it was going to develop as it has. I mean, it's pretty incredible how it's evolved.
We were looking for some help and assistance with Airbnb, managing a property ourselves. And that conversation that we had asked our source at Yonder, Neil, was our first Yonder experiences with him. And then he suggested you, and then you led to Steve, and then Steve led to a meeting with Brandon and I and Steve and Donna. And it's just, it's really been a great adventure. And that all because we decided to come to Asheville and we hired Yonder.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I love, but isn't that your happenstance story in the islands and your accidental, job at a radio station?
I think staying curious, not afraid of risks to some extent, having the faith in your own abilities to either move forward and do good at whatever that opportunity is, or shrug it off and go, well, didn't work out. Let's just, kind of move on and learn from it. I mean, I think it makes life interesting, and I don't know where I would have been had I not guessed those Clash songs and said yes to being a volunteer DJ, which, because I wouldn't have met the owners, et cetera, et cetera.
So we go from guest DJ to Haagen-Dazs to the Clash to Chris Nevin, and we're doing this great retrace, and we retrace our steps here to that conversation at Rockies, which has now turned into a collaborative effort with Quinvestors that, man, I definitely did not bring up Quinvestors that day.
Right.
That was just us creating awareness of why do you guys want to go to Phoenix and why are you going to South Florida?
Right.
And then ultimately the Great Lakes being in Michigan and Ohio and the synergy there. It was just bizarre how all of that puzzled together to this big picture that we have today.
It was great energy, and I think when you bring multiple groups with the same energy and passion and curiosity, I think you get really great collaboration, and anything's possible when you have that. It's really hard to do it by yourself, but I think when you collaborate, boy, oh boy.
Our listeners may not know that Yonder exclusively manages the Quinvestor property. So it's not just a partnership here in this region. It's all Quinvestor properties are
Yeah, there's a
managed.
commitment.
Yeah,
The
by Yonder.
commitment is to build together in the partnership that we've created with the Yonder Quinvestors platform, and Yonder will exclusively manage those properties and those footprints, really in those 4 regional markets.
It's a differentiator. It's a big deal.
It is. It's a huge deal.
It's a really big thing for us to be able to partner. I mean, that's not something that we take lightly or we even really planned on. To be able to partner with an outside group on something of this magnitude was never really in the cards until it was. And I think that the relationship that we developed over the years before Quinvestors led to a level of trust and brainstorming and collaboration. And I remember when you guys came to a strategic planning session and started talking about, this idea, this vision. It's all sort of like a flower just, coming out of the ground in the spring, and you don't know what really shape it's going to take, but it blooms, and it's blooming right now. And for us, it's great because we have, with you guys, control over what kind of homes, the location of homes, amenities. It's a really powerful tool. And I think at the end of the day, guests are going to be the beneficiaries of that because they're going to have our guest experience in a really gorgeous home that was conceived and was bought through you guys' efforts and some of our input. It's I know a lot of PMs around the country, and this is certainly very, very unique. So we're really fortunate about that.
It was a decision that was not arrived at without quite a bit of discussion, our end and behind the scenes, and then executive team meetings for Yonder. And it's a windy road how we've arrived here. And I will tell you, you mentioned just a moment ago the happenings, what's going to come of this Yonder Quinvestors partnership. And you mentioned that some guests are going to have some really good experiences, and this is not made up. You can look it up. It's the first review for Cocktails and Cacti in Phoenix, and nobody knows this group that stayed. It's written by Tyler, and they just happen to be Airbnb hosts.
Yeah.
They have stayed in short-term vacation rentals around the world, and on their review, it mentions this background, and then it goes on to say that this property might be our favorite.
Yeah.
And that's really a wild thing, and it almost seems like it's made up, but
That's a
all of
high
us,
five to everybody.
yeah, and when we got that, everybody just kind of looked around. Are you kidding me?
Whew.
Are you kidding me? Which was just great.
And that's the next step horizon. Looking forward, it's Arizona.
Yeah.
And what else is on the horizon for Yonder?
I think the sky's the limit. It wasn't that long ago, even when we were talking, is how to scale properly. How do you recreate the quality, the standards that you've really honed well here, and how do you scale that in another region, completely another region? And I think that for a long time was very, very scary to think about.
It still is, man. I mean, we're all dealing with it on our, I think we've become, not to lessen what you just said in any way, it is scary. It still is scary. It was scary then, and we've just become more comfortable with being uncomfortable about expansion. And if we could just get Katie on board, I think it would go a lot better.
Katie's on board.
No,
she's good. Messing. Katie's our CFO for our listeners.
And we got to spend the money though.
There is some money to be spent, but you got to spend a little bit to make a little bit. So
we're learning how to and what comes next with expansion. I have this saying is that when people don't know what to do, they do nothing.
Yeah.
So just simply answering the question of the expansion and how.
Yeah.
When you can answer the how, that's when the magic happens.
Yeah.
Just give me a checklist, give me a task list. What do we need to do?
You know, one of the things we learned early is that we're human and we're going to make mistakes.
Yep.
And it's what you do after you make those mistakes, and not be afraid to make. There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be, you know, balls dropped. There's going to be issues. Is to keep moving forward, own your mistakes, own the issues, and make it right. Whether it's to your, you know, a teammate, whether it's to an owner, whether it's to a guest, whether it's to someone in the community, is you just got to do the right thing and you know, maintain the brand and be transparent. But getting to your point about growth and scaling with Quinvestors, it's just it's almost a perfect scenario for us to be able to have this partnership.
I like the words almost perfect because we keep recreating these ideas and pushing them forward, because I don't know that you can really get perfection. It's just a thing we push for, and we collaborate, which is not easy to do. You have your own thoughts, you have your teammates' thoughts, and then you have this, you know, outside influence, which really brings a lot of greatness through collaboration.
Yeah, I think perfection is impossible to either maintain or even to get to. I think it's the search for excellence, the constant. You don't want to be complacent. You want to keep working towards that excellent point, and you learn stuff along the way. You change processes. You know, we've definitely had different. You cannot take a process that we have just dialed in here in the mountains and think you can just take it like a cookie cutter and put it in Arizona, because it doesn't work that way. So we've learned, how does garbage get collected? And it's different. And so those are sort of growing pains, but to understand that, to communicate that, and to own it, and then to make the changes. It has to be done with mind and heart. You have to have both the technical intelligence as well as we spoke earlier about the emotional intelligence. And I see that in spades all the time. Every time we have a meeting,